What is going on, Cultiv8 family? How are you all doing today? I hope you're all having a good week so far. I got one question for you. What is your relationship with your body like? How is your body image right now at this moment in time? Does it feel neutral? Does it feel positive? Does it feel more negative than otherwise? Today's episode, as you might have guessed, is all about body image. And I think it follows on pretty nicely from what we spoke about last week with how Katie O'Brien built her body for Love Lies Bleeding and the influence that may have had, the comparison that might have made people feel. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, definitely go and listen to it after this or before or whatever you prefer. So body image in itself is the perception of our physical self. It's how we think and how we feel and how we act towards our body. So it's a multifaceted construct. It consists of loads of different factors like our perception, our attitude, our behaviors, and a poor body image is the strongest risk factor for the development of an eating disorder, which played a pretty key part in my role. I had an absolutely horrendous relationship with my body image as I was in the worst of my eating disorder. And as my body image became worse, the eating disorder became worse, and then they eventually led to a place where they kind of fueled each other. And an eating disorder is not the only negative outcome from having a bad body image or having negative body image satisfaction. It can cause depression and anxiety, lower self-esteem, interpersonal problems. It can lead to alcohol and drug abuse. It can lead to self-harm. It can lead us to not want to move our body at all, lose our sex drive, feel overly stressed. It can lead us to isolate ourselves socially, which is something I definitely used to do a lot. And because of all those things, a person can be in a position where they're a lot less likely to be motivated to ask anyone for help, because it can feel really isolating and like there's not really a way out from it because it is all consuming. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with body image. We're then going to go into the actual dieting, fat loss and weight goal side of body image that plagues a lot of people. We're going to cover how much is too much to care about our own body image, especially as queer folk. We're going to talk about the media and pop culture and how that fuels our relationship with our own body. And we're going to finish on how do we build a healthy relationship with our body and also kind of care about our body image and want to present ourselves in a way to the world that makes us feel good without running down completely disordered paths or damaging our relationship with our bodies. So to begin with, I'm going to hit you with the stats, as I always do. So more than 50% of adults from the US, UK, Australia, France, and Germany all combined, they reported experiencing some sort of weight stigma in their lifetime. And this was a pretty recent study. It was 2021. And nearly 1 in 3 people that use gyms reported significant symptoms of body dysmorphia. And 70% of those 1 in 3 people had an eating disorder. Adults that use steroids for body image purposes are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience depression and anxiety than people that don't use steroids to enhance their body image. In more than 50,000 adults, 60% of women, I say women as a loose term because all the studies are gendered, 60% of women thought they were too heavy and were self-conscious about their weight. 30% reported being too uncomfortable in a swimsuit, and 20% thought they were unattractive. And in that same study, 41% of men thought they were too heavy and were self-conscious. 16% reported not being comfortable in swimwear, and 11% thought they were unattractive. So in a lot of these studies, what we see pattern-wise, again, using gendered terms very loosely, is body image is significantly reportedly worse for women. And 70% of adult women actually report withdrawing from activities due to their feelings about their body, due to having poor body satisfaction. And that can often be a leading cause of why people don't go into the gym at all. There's a lot of mirrors everywhere. There's a lot of people everywhere. And that can make it really hard when you're struggling with your body image. So I'll work with a lot of people on unpacking that and getting them in there. And it's not as easy as just ripping the band-aid off and getting it over with and telling yourself that no one's looking. It's not as simple as that at all. And then moving on to body image and children. So there was a study in 2004 that identified that the top 25 children's videos had 2/3 of the characters that linked thinness and physical attractiveness with positive personality traits. And then 75% of the videos linked people in bigger bodies with unfavorable traits. So children's videos and cartoons essentially depicted thin bodies as more caring and more kind people, and it presented people in bigger bodies as not nice people, which is absolutely wild. And I could go on about this for days, but there was other studies on children's cartoons that depicted all femme presenting characters as actually underweight as well, which led children to want to make their body smaller. It honestly could go on forever, the amount of stats and studies linked with body image that I could tell you about. But those are some of the main ones that really, really did catch my eye. And all I want this to serve as is just a reminder that if you have trouble with your body image, you are 100% not alone in that. Like in that study of 50,000 adults, well over half reported struggling with their body image. But how isolating that feels, it doesn't always seem like everybody does. I think the other thing is that most of us were brought up to be told that smaller is better, whether that's depicted in social media, in the mainstream media, in the cartoons or the shows that we watch or the soaps that we watch growing up. And that is just an age of fat phobia and diet culture fueling those beliefs. It may have calmed down a little bit, but it's not going away anytime soon. And we're going to continue to see that, unfortunately. And I think one of the main barriers that having bad body image equates to is you miss out on a lot of intentional joy and making memories. You can be constantly preoccupied with how you look. You can be preoccupied with food and exercise, constantly worrying about what people think about you and how they're perceiving you. And as queer folk, body image is actually a huge part of our identity, but we definitely have a responsibility to ourselves not to take it too far to the point where it starts to create preoccupation, where it starts to create extreme body dissatisfaction, because we absolutely deserve better than that for ourselves. And not every day is going to be positive or going to be neutral, but I definitely think we can all aim to strive for a bit more neutrality with our bodies, whilst also being able to care about how we present ourselves, what brings us gender euphoria, what makes us feel good in our bodies from a physical perspective. So my first experience with struggling with my body image was definitely from being a super, super young age. I was always the biggest kid everywhere I was. And because of how people in bigger bodies were painted, especially in the 90s, I always thought there was something wrong with me. And I had pretty low self-esteem. I was very shy. I was very insecure. And when I was about 14 years old, I got a styled haircut for the first time. And I bought a pair of skinny jeans. And all of a sudden, my world changed. I ended up having more friends. I ended up having more interest from boys. That's quite funny when we think about that now. And as soon as I changed my appearance when I was a teenager, everything got a little bit easier and better for me. And what I maybe realize now is that a lot of that was maybe my confidence in myself, from living a bit more authentically, feeling a little bit more myself, and as I was slowly finding who I was. And maybe this happened to some of you lot as well, but at the time, I attached all of my self-worth, all of my friends, all of the attention that I got from the male gaze, I attached all of that to changing my body and looking like a more palatable person. And a lot of that solely did revolve around being found to be attractive. And then going into later life, by the time I hit college, I would refuse to buy clothes past a certain size because I had grown up seeing others doing that and being like, no, I just need to lose weight to fit into this. I felt so displeased at my appearance all the time because my body changed and I couldn't wear the same clothes that I did when I was a teenager. So I was 19 years old wondering why I couldn't wear, youth large band shirts that I wore when I was 16. And I thought my job was to shrink myself to fit into that. And me not buying new clothes, I realized maybe not even that long ago, maybe like in the last 7 or 8 years, was hugely linked to negative body image. Feeling good in clothes, feeling good and like yourself in clothes that fit well. Honestly, I can't believe I didn't allow myself to do that for so long. I'm angry with past Lucinda for that, but you know, it is what it is. And then when everything got really bad for me, I would end up just telling myself that I didn't deserve to wear nice clothes or to dress nice. I would stare at myself unhappy in the mirror every single morning before I started work. I would be body checking constantly. I can't tell you how many times I would just stand in the mirror and tear myself apart every day. And that was how I started every day for a good few years. And that only made my eating disorder worse. But in terms of where I'm at right now, I still do have some really tough body image days, weeks. And it can be really hard to accept that my body changes still when my environment changes, when I've started HRT as a trans person, when I've recovered from top surgery. It can still be hard to notice changes. And it can also still be really hard to challenge diet culture thoughts. As a coach, it can be really hard to not want to be super ripped because there's an element of pressure on your body image when you're a personal trainer, which is bullshit because no matter how I look, me being more ripped will never ever make me a better nutritionist or a better fitness coach. And I think what I have learned in my journey through ED recovery and through trying to be a bit more neutral with my body image is that I love being muscular and strong. That gives me a lot of euphoria in my body. Fashion, I found, is really important to me as a trans masc person. It's a way that I express myself and feel like myself. But now, if I find myself repeatedly body checking, I recognize it and I challenge it. If I find my mind spinning a narrative that I have to change my body to feel better, I challenge it. So it's not that I don't ever get those thoughts, and it's not that I won't ever get them again, but it's realizing where they come from and why I'm having them. And I can then choose how I want to react to them. So quick content warning before we move on. I'm going to now talk about how dieting, fat loss, and weight goals are associated with negative body image. So feel free to skip this bit. I'll have put the time markers in the show notes if you're not wanting to hear about this stuff. So negative body image in itself is actually associated with like a greater frequency of dieting, which is why so many people that flip between different diets or constantly yo-yo diet, they track their food, they stop, they start again. Those behaviors are associated with people that have negative body image and they come hand in hand. And as we know, neutral or positive body image doesn't actually relate to how much weight someone can gain or lose or how much smaller or muscular you can make your body. It relates to our perception of our physical self. And when we diet or pursue fat loss or a weight loss goal in order to change our body image, it can get harder to regulate our emotions, and that in itself can make negative body image worse. There was a study in 2013 that showed that the less dieting behaviors you pursue, the better your body satisfaction will be. And people definitely tend to think it's the other way around. They think once I hit this goal weight, I will feel more confident. But actually, what's often the case is that your body image won't get better. So you will continue to diet. You will continue to pursue a weight loss goal in the hope that the next couple of pounds might help, or the next, or the next. And then there will be a constant cycle of relapsing to yo-yo dieting. And I see a lot of people come to me within these cycles. And the first conversation is always, we need to work on body image and food relationship first. Because often those people may have gone to a point where they think they're doing everything wrong, when really what they're doing is pursuing something that's actually just impacting them so much more negatively than it would be if they weren't. And now, obviously, the amount of social media content that we have on dieting, calorie deficits, food restriction, the actual motivation for people to diet is heavily weighted towards what they're seeing on social media. And there was a 2016 study that showed that more social media use is associated with lower body satisfaction due to comments, due to comparisons, due to content that people are putting out that maybe is trying to cash in on people's vulnerabilities with their body as well. And what's really important for us to note here for anyone that is at any point considering dieting, pursuing fat loss, pursuing a weight loss or a weight gain goal, is that hitting your goal weight will not equal confidence and happiness. There is no magic number that will make you feel more confident and happier in your body. And a lot of the time we have to go on that journey ourselves to learn that. And most coaches have already done that, which is why we probably preach this all the time, because we've had our own. But often the result is not what we think it is. It's not what it's made out to be. We end up being more preoccupied with food and our body. We do way more body checking because we're also probably struggling to maintain the body that we're in. We might end up emotionally eating far more and eventually fall down a track of disordered eating, which unintervened could end up in an eating disorder. Goal weight doesn't equal confidence and happiness at all, because body image is our perception of our physical self, not the actual size or shape that we are. Now, is it wrong to care about our appearance and what we look like? Absolutely not. But how much is too much? How much caring is too much? Because there's definitely a line. There's caring about our appearance, how we look, how we present ourselves, what affirms us, fashion, hair, makeup, maybe even like cosmetic choices, transitioning for any trans folk listening. But if a lot of that is fueled by the drive to be seen in a certain light or impress or appeal to a group of people or wider society, that's the point where we're not doing it for ourselves anymore. We might even tell ourselves that we're doing it for ourselves at first, but when we really dig into it, is the reason we're actually wanting to make changes to our bodies so we are just more accepted by wider society. And that isn't a bad thought to have. I'm pretty sure we've all had that thought chain at some point, because we don't live in a nice world. We don't live in a kind world to people that aren't deemed as normal. And I use the word normal in mega inverted commas because that isn't a thing. So there is definitely a line based on how much we care. And then we get into the kind of gender euphoria and gender affirming side of body image. Something that's gender affirming versus something we tell ourselves will make us feel better if we change our body. There's a fine line there, and I feel like we are the only people that can truly understand our own personal stance on that. Everyone's is going to be very different. For me, top surgery absolutely changed my life, but I definitely did find myself questioning at points like, am I just vain? Which is kind of bonkers because it has made me feel so much more like myself. And have I ever been preoccupied with my chest since? Not at all. I appreciate the body I now have and I'm grateful for it, but I don't obsess over what my scars look like, how my chest is perceived, and I don't want to make it perfect. And maybe that for me is my fine line, but that might be different for you. Now, getting into media and popular culture, it's really easy for us all to just spout the line like diversify your feed, unfollow. But when it comes down to it, we don't always want to hide away from the media and pop culture. It's how a lot of us get our news. It's how a lot of us connect with other people by sharing things. And no matter how hard we try, we are always going to see celebrities being body shamed when there's nothing wrong with their body. Like Rihanna is getting so much shit at the moment, and it's so grim since she's had a baby. And seeing all this stuff can make us think, well, if they get body shamed like that, what would they say or think about me? We are constantly comparing in some sense. And there was one study that found using social media for as little as 30 minutes a day can negatively change the way people view their own body. And the chances are we're all spending way more than 30 minutes a day on social media. And no matter how many people we unfollow, the way that algorithms are built, we're still going to be pushed things that potentially don't make us feel our best. So what can we even do about that? I guess two things. We definitely need to work to get ourselves in a place where we can see mainstream media or other people's bodies and not then judge ourselves negatively based on those people's appearances or not constantly compare ourselves. We can challenge ourselves and call ourselves out on that, because so much of what we're seeing online isn't real to begin with. We then need to potentially think about addressing our relationship with looking at negativity on posts, like negative comments. If we see negative comments on other people's posts and that affects us, should we be rushing to the comments every time we see a post where we think, oh, I wonder what people are saying about that? It's almost like a bit of subconscious self-sabotage in a sense. Like, for example, I get trolled a lot for being trans. And if seeing negative comments about trans people is something that you find really hard, I definitely wouldn't urge you to look at some of my comments, you know? But I think it's really easy to almost get drawn in just reading what other people have to say about other people's bodies. And I think sometimes maybe we might seek it out for validation, but we definitely need to decide, is that the right thing for us? So we can all probably put a little bit more time into thinking about how we consume media and content within pop culture, because if there's things we aren't ready to see, yeah, by all means unfollow. But if we are feeling really, really triggered by everything we see, we maybe need to think about where all that is coming from in the first place. If we are so heavily affected, if we are plaguing ourselves when we see other people's bodies, why are we doing that? Where did that come from? So how do we have a healthy relationship with our body and care about our appearance without damaging our body image or our relationships with our body? I think the first thing we need to look at is recognizing the signs that we might be struggling. How many times are we body checking ourselves in a day? How many times are we stressing about things like bloating after a meal when that just might be like the natural part of the digestion process for most of us? How often do we think about changing ourselves or fixing ourselves? I use fixing in inverted commas for anyone not watching. How much of our headspace does body image preoccupy right now? And are we okay with how much it occupies? How often do we compare ourselves to others, whether that's people we see in the media or just day-to-day people we see in our everyday lives? All of these things are kind of those little red flags that we may be struggling with our body image. And it could be any number of them, or it could be a couple, and sometimes they may feel worse. And at some points in our life, they're going to feel a lot harder than others. But building self-awareness around signs that we're having a period of time where our body image sucks or we're not feeling great about it is maybe the key to challenging it in the first place. Every week in my clients' check-in form, I ask them if they've had any specific thoughts or feelings about their body. And that's their space to actually think, well, how has my body image been this week? And a lot of time they'll reflect and think, oh, I didn't think a lot about my body this week. Yeah, neutral. But other weeks they'll be like, this was all I thought about. I really struggled. And it's really easy to ignore this question. It's really easy to think, I just don't want to think about my body at all. But do we want to completely ignore our bodies? Probably not. We want to find that balance, right? Now, things like body gratitude definitely gets a bad rap at the moment because it's really easy for lean, athletic people that have a lot of privilege to be like, well, just be grateful for everything your body can do. And they'll just say that, like, that's easy to do. Just be grateful. But we definitely need to dig deeper on that a little bit. If we're in bodies that allow us to go for a walk on our own accord, allow us to get to work every day, allow us to go to the shop when we need something, allow us to do a workout when we feel like moving, that is a huge privilege. And reminding ourselves of that is the main form of gratitude that we can incorporate that isn't toxically positive. If you're having a stressful week and you've not got to the gym, that might lead you to have a bit more of a negative body image thing going on because, again, that's just how we're conditioned to think. But then reframing that, challenging yourself on it and thinking, well, I've had such a stressful week. I'm grateful that my body's even got me through it in the first place. Practicing gratitude is kind of a buzzword, but it counts for a lot, and there is a reason it's spoken about a lot. Our body is doing a whole number of things for us every day, and bashing it for how it looks when it gets us through every day in the way that it does seems kind of silly when you put it all in context. So challenging yourself on that a little bit, definitely needed. I have to do it all the time. And that's a point I could definitely do a lot more of myself for sure. One exercise that I do with quite a lot of my clients is around what their values are, especially when it comes to body image. If you think about your brain as a pie any flavor, any flavor is fine. But think about it as a pie, like a pie chart. And if you were to color in how much of that pie was preoccupied with your body image, would you be okay with that? Because for some people, sometimes it feels like it's half the pie or 3/4 of the pie. And when I ask them, are you okay with body image being that high up on your values list that it takes up so much headspace? And normally the answer is no. Someone's values might be their family, movement, their career progression, what they do outside of work, their friends. Having body image take over is not something that we want, and we don't always recognize when it has. So that can be a really helpful exercise to do, is to visualize how much mental capacity your thoughts of your body image are taking up. And is that okay with you? And if it's not, then you need to start challenging it. I think the other way that we can have a really healthy relationship with our body image and celebrate it is through fashion and through living authentically, not just validation for actual body shape, body size, musculature. Using clothing, using fashion to feel awesome about yourself is a really, really underrated tool for feeling amazing. And now we have access to all these options where we can get secondhand fashion, so we can try and experiment a little bit more and not necessarily have to invest a whole load of money into figuring out how we want to look. Having clothes that you feel good in and that fit you well counts for so much, and we definitely don't give that enough time. If you have clothes in your closet that currently don't fit you and you're waiting for them to, honestly, donate them, sell them, and invest in some stuff that you really, really like and that makes you feel good and like yourself. And I think maybe the last point I'm going to make on how we have a healthy relationship with our body and also care about our image without going too far is remembering that not necessarily being preoccupied with body image doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to let ourselves go, again, in inverted commas. If we give less brain power to negative body image thoughts, that's not a bad thing. The chances are we're probably going to have a lot better self-esteem, a lot better mood, and we're going to feel better about ourselves because we're not thinking about it all the time. We're not scrutinizing it. We're not body checking. And that is far more valuable than that severe amount of preoccupation that we sometimes can have. As queer and trans folk, 99% of people that actually listen to this podcast, body image is a really big part of our identity. But as I said at the beginning, we definitely have a responsibility to ourselves to not take it to a point where it's negatively affecting us. And if we're struggling with body image, we need to understand the origins of where the negative body image thoughts come from in the first place. We need to challenge and correct ourselves on it. We need to be mindful of accepting the thoughts and experiences that we have with our body image, because the negative ones will happen sometimes and it will be out of our control. And most importantly, I think we need to learn to value, respect, and appreciate our bodies and what they can do. And for anyone listening that is able-bodied like myself, it's a huge privilege for people in able bodies to be able to move through the world off their own accord. And there's a lot of people that don't necessarily have that autonomy with their bodies. So I hope this episode has been helpful for you today. I've got a bunch of book recommendations that I'm going to leave in the show notes for anyone that wants to read around this a little bit more. And all of these books are awesome. And even if you just read a couple of them, I hope it maybe empowers you to think a little bit differently about your body and really challenge those negative body image thoughts. So the first one is Queer Body Power by Essie Dennis. The second is Belly of the Beast by Deshawn Harrison. The next is You're Not a Before Picture by Alex Light. Any of Aubrey Gordon's books. Body Positive Power by Megan Jane Crabb. More Than a Body by Lexi and Lindsay Kite, and The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. All of these would be a really, really awesome start. So I'll put them all in the show notes for anyone that just wants to kind of immerse themselves in different ways to approach working on your body image. And if you are someone that's really struggling with body image and it's affecting how you show up for the gym or how you approach your nutrition, or maybe it's even holding you back from training the way you want to train, going to the gym, or having a better relationship with food. If you've ever felt like you may need some support with that, then the chances are Fuzz Culture Club could be your flavor for nutrition and fitness coaching, and I would absolutely love to help you. if you're listening to this podcast, I already know that you're the kind of person that would fit in well with Fuzz Culture Club. So fill in the form in the show notes for me. Tell me a bit about yourself, or you can just shoot me a DM or an email if you prefer. And we'll have a bit of a chat. I'll let you know if I can help you. And if you feel like one-to-one coaching with Fuzz Culture Club with me could be a good fit, then we'll get you started and we'll crack on. Navigating fitness, nutrition, and body image all in one is not easy. It's not easy to do without help. So joining a coaching community that prioritizes things like body image over aesthetics and food relationship over making your body smaller can absolutely do wonders for your own mindset yourself. Just being in a space where that is the ethos. If I had had the option of this, I would have bitten someone's hand off, which is exactly why I do this now. So have an amazing rest of your week, Cultiv8 family. Take it easy. That is me out. Bye.